Now then, from the front lines to off the grid, Wendy Tremayne left a successful and high-priced lifestyle in New York City to settle down in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. No, really, that's what it's called. Once there, her and her husband have built, invented, foraged, and grown all that they need, being careful to not buy anything new and living life in what she calls the waste stream of an over-commodified, over-consumerized world. In 2013, she piled some of her experiences into a book called The Good Life Lab: Radical Experiments in Hands-on Living. Here she shares her geographical, emotional, and mental journey while blending in some beautiful illustrations and DIY how-tos on everything from biofuel to beer. We sat down with Wendy a while back to discuss not only her book, but her decision to make this huge shift and how others can make small shifts and start embracing a life less commodified. Take a look.
I often wondered about, like, well, where are all the remote workers? When are we going to move to rural America and live out this dream that the internet made possible? It's funny that we're still not doing it because the waste stream is so abundant that, like, you don't have to be, in downtown Manhattan anymore or in Oakland. And in fact, when you get outside a little bit, what you tend to bump into are the people who make the things. And the economy changes a bit. It's more like in a small town or a rural place, it's a social network of economy. So like the last thing you would do is use money because it's like the low road. It means you don't have a relationship, so it's just as rich, if not richer. But essentially, I think one of the biggest exchanges is you're time rich and money poor. I mean, economically, my bank account, I looked a lot richer in New York, right? But I'm so much wealthier now.
But why do you think people are resisting, this idea of moving out to places and becoming rich in other ways? Even when you hear people in big cities, I lived in LA for 10 years and it was like, if I could just get out of the city for a while, that'd be really nice. But they don't. What do you think is stopping people from actually doing it like you did?
I think it depends a little bit on age, but I think especially when you're younger, you feel like you're missing something. When I left New York, I was 37 and I did everything. I was in a rock band. I ran a record label. I was in the music entertainment business. Like I just did everything. I was corporate, but I like played by my rules, and I had a great time. And when I left, I felt like I knew exactly what I was leaving. And my excitement and growth and newness was all in this foreign, rural place. So in some ways, I think you got to get it out of your system so you don't feel like I'm missing something. And maybe, it's just a little scary, economically, like how do you make money?
I'm curious as well, how do you, now that you've moved into this decommodified setting, how do you see the scale? Because there are some people that look at what you do and they're like, I'm not ready for that because I'm still enjoying New York City or whatever. Or they're not sure how to take that first step. What would you suggest? And how do you see that scale as trying to take that first step versus going all the way to Truth and Consequences?
Well, not everybody has to leave the city, right? Like, for me, it was important because I wanted to live a hands-on life, right? I mean, wherever we're standing, we can sort of carve out a decommodified or autonomous space, where you just say within this domain, I'm going to have a new level of integrity. So whether it's, just wearing used stuff or, sometimes it's like just refusing to care about money for me, like I teach yoga in town here and, people throw the weirdest stuff at me like barters and how about this, and I'll pay you 3 cents. And some people think I'm crazy, but I just say yes to everything pretty much because I feel like in the end, there's like an emotional lesson going on here that's like bigger than the dollar. And for me, it keeps me from ever getting that like anxious, that tension that like wants to leap out and grab money, I mean, for me, that's the death trap. So I don't have to live in the middle of the desert to practice this kind of stuff, or to take control over the food I eat and refuse to be poisoned by industry,
Do you see this A lot of activists say that, the future of this system, because the system will eventually break down because you can't extract forever. So as it breaks down, do you see more and more people, whether they're in the city or out in the sticks, so to speak, do you see more people switching towards this sort of like barter economy? Like, what can I give you for that, bushel of kale, as opposed to like, oh, it's just this much money?
I don't know, I think of the cliche, like, this is the best day on earth, this is the worst day on earth, like, and it's always been that. It's hard to tell if it's where I'm looking or if it's what's happening. I still hold out faith in our intellectual communities, in our activist communities. My partner and I were just talking the other day. We live around a lot of like what were ranchers. And there's a little tension where we are between the ranchers and the newer creative people who come here. And, you have to like step back and realize the ranchers were like the salt of the earth, the close to the ground. They had that taken away and nothing replaced it. They can't make a living any longer doing these things that they had pride in and that kept them close to nature. And, there's a reason for the way that pride developed into these sort of blown out psyche, personalities. And in a sense, the answer to get us all back to the same place is the same. They would like micro, local, organic farming. They would get their quality of life back, right? And we wouldn't seem so different in view all of a sudden. And then the liberal progressives would get their organic food, and it wouldn't seem like entitlement. It would just seem like a match. And I think it's a real fertile ground for people to both learn to collectivize and make new economies, learn to reskill and actually live, and then also just get this clearer view of like reality. Like reality is messy and it goes up and down, and you don't have a job or a 9-to-5 clock, so you're just kind of like, wow, and you have to kind of reconcile all these habits and things and training, right? And it's real, and it makes it really interesting. And I think at the end of the day, it's like more important that we like live a real life than that we feel good. It's more stimulating to just like live. So yeah, that's my pitch for inexpensive rural America.
Wendy's shift and comments on living so locally remind me of a Hedges quote from his latest book, Wages of Rebellion. Communities and communal organizations that manage to break free from the dominant culture will find a correlation between the amount of freedom they enjoy and the amount of independence they attain in a world where access to land, food, and water has become paramount. Such communities are our best hope for sustaining the intellectual and artistic traditions that define the heights of human culture and permit the common good. Yet another call to local focus and community care, while still acting on the global stage by defying capitalism and fighting for justice, freedom, and peace. If you're interested in hearing more about Wendy's move and perhaps learning how to make your own beer or biofuel, you can find her book on Amazon, or indeed perhaps somewhere in the waste stream.